All right, so today we are going to be getting into how we built our nonprofit consulting business. So it's literally a 5-step framework that you guys can implement on your own. And we're going to spill the beans today. Here is our agenda. So we are going to talk about the 5 signs that consulting is for you. So these are the red flags to look out for. This will signal to you that you definitely need a change in your life. We personally experienced all 5 of these signs, so we've been there. You're not alone. Next, we will review our 5-step framework. So this is the 5 steps, literally it's the recipe to how you can start consulting for nonprofits. And last, we're going to tell you about our story, how we built our 6-figure consulting business in less than a year. All right, the 5 signs. So you love nonprofit work, but you no longer love what you do. Maybe you are in love with your nonprofit's mission. You feel really connected, aligned with the mission, but you're not exactly feeling fulfilled when it comes to your specific role at your organization. Maybe you are a volunteer, a board member, an employee. You love the work, but not so much what you're doing yourself in the work. So that is sign number 1, that consulting is for you. Sign number 2 is you feel like you have hit your limit for growth. For this one, maybe you have busted your butt, you've climbed your way to the top of your organization, maybe you're executive director even, and that's great. But when you look around, you're at the top. There's nowhere else to go. You've hit a ceiling, and you might feel like you want a new challenge. Sign number 3, you are fed up with the direct report lifestyle and you want to be your own boss. I know for Julia and myself, this one was huge. We wanted to be in the driver's seat. We were just sick of being told what to do by everybody else. We did not like the bureaucracy in the organizations that we were in. And we just wanted to, take control and be in the driver's seat. So if you feel that way, we see you. We were there. Sign number 4, that consulting is for you. You're craving more flexibility to spend time with loved ones or maybe travel. Doesn't really matter. You just want more flexibility, period, to do whatever the heck you want to do outside of work. For me, this is probably the number 1 sign that was my wake-up call that I needed to make a change. I was in a role at an organization, and I missed my daughter's basically her whole first year of life because I was working a traditional 9-to-5 job. I would get home and it would be time for her to go to sleep most of the time. I would spend maybe an hour with her, and it was just killing me inside to miss all of those precious moments. And for me, no amount of money in the world could make up for time. So this one was huge for me. And Julia actually was able to spend all of last summer traveling throughout Italy because she was consulting, and she definitely would not have been able to do that in a traditional 9-to-5 job. Sign number 5, that consulting is for you. You know you've got valuable skills and you want to be paid what you're worth. For this one, we know that a lot of nonprofit people, they wear all of the hats, right? You take on so much. We've both been there. We were the first to volunteer for taking on extra tasks because you want to feel like, oh, my boss sees that, I'm committed to the mission. And, that's great, but then you burn out. You're exhausted by literally doing everything. And what sucks the most is that most of the time you're not even compensated for doing more. So it's totally not fair. And it's definitely a sign that you can become a consultant if you want to actually get paid what you're worth. All right, so getting into our framework. So these are the steps that you can literally take today if you want to start consulting. And this is exactly the roadmap that we followed. First, you're going to want to define your why and your vision. So really at its core, dig deep and figure out, why do you want to start consulting? Why are you feeling that you want to make a change in your life? For me, it was my two kids. Those are my kids there. They're 3 and 1. Again, I didn't want to miss out on a moment of their childhoods. And for Julia, this is her grandma and grandpa, Granny and Pop. They're so cute. I love that picture of them. But Julia, during the pandemic, when she was a development director at a nonprofit in DC, she moved back home to take care of Granny and Pop. Um, and when lockdown was over, her boss asked her to come back to work, and that meant leaving Granny and Pop. And Julia did not want to do that. They were very old. I think they passed away 101, 103, something like that. So that was really why Julia decided to start consulting at that point in time. She wanted to be there for the end of their days, and consulting allowed her to do that. And I will tell you that consulting, it is not for the weak. I mean, there are definitely days where we are both like wanting to give up and we get frustrated and whatever, but really it's the why at the end of the day where we always come back, and it keeps us going. I mean, you need something to get yourself out of bed every day when you're an entrepreneur. So it's just really fundamental here to understand your why. And once you figure out the why, it's a great idea to come up with a vision board to really just visualize your dream life and your goals. This can be super simple. My board is like in a Google Doc. I know Julia has her vision board saved on her desktop computer so she can see it every day. I have mine on my phone, like my background on my phone, so I can see it every day. And I will say, I mean, I'm not like a manifesting person or anything like that, but there's something about just writing down your goals and reviewing them daily to keep you going, to push you forward. And we have done this, and I was actually looking at my board and I realized, holy crap, like 3 things have actually come true on my board in just a year. And we started doing this vision board thing maybe 2 years ago or so, but it's huge. Definitely recommend it if you haven't done it. And look at your board every day. That's going to keep you motivated. So that's the first step in the framework. Step number 2, assess your skills and find your niche. So for this, literally get a piece of paper out, a Google Doc, whatever you want to do, and write down like a huge list of all of your skills. This is, I took this screenshot from one of our early documents somewhere in our giant Google Drive. And we wrote down everything that we knew would be valuable to nonprofits. So here's the list. We hear all the time from people and they're like, I just don't have enough experience. And we think that's BS, because you totally do. You know so much, and nonprofits would be so lucky and, bending over backwards, honestly, to pay you for your skill set. So make this list of everything you know. After you do that, think about what niche you want to focus on. So in the beginning of our business, we actually made this mistake. We didn't niche down. We literally offered all of these services that you see here. And we thought like, oh, it's great. We offer so much, like literally nonprofits can hire us for anything. But in hindsight, it was not the best decision because it was extremely confusing for nonprofits, especially when it came to marketing ourselves. I mean, how do you market this list? Like, it's a lot. It's overwhelming. So eventually we figured that out, and we decided to niche down to offer CRM and database support primarily. So we were then known as like the CRM girls. So you'll want to do the same thing. Pick a niche. It can be whatever you're passionate about, whatever lights you up. Like if you want to work with just Hispanic groups, go do that. If you want to work with animal rights groups, do that. Like, just pick a niche that you're super excited about, and tailor everything to your audience by niche. Okay, so step number 3 in the framework, market research. For this, I don't want you to get bogged down because this can, it can be a rabbit hole to go down. I know I have been there, Julia's been there. But what you're going to want to do is really understand the landscape before you dive into consulting. You want to figure out who's doing what offers are out there, how are people marketing themselves, what's the landscape really? And then you want to identify any gaps in the landscape and figure out how you could fill those gaps with your services. And you can just start this by doing a simple Google search like I did here. Go on LinkedIn, go on Instagram, and type in different keywords to pull up people in your niche just to get a sense of who's out there. But again, do not get bogged down in the competition. We made this mistake at the beginning. There were some consultants out there that we would try to literally like work backwards and like re-engineer their work. And it was not the best because everybody has their own unique voice, their own unique way of doing things. And we didn't end up sounding like ourselves. So don't focus too much on the competition, focus on you, but just get a sense of what's out there. Another way to do market research is informational interviews. So for this, you're going to want to reach out to a couple of organizations, maybe like 5 to 10 organizations that you want to work with, ideally. And all you do in an email, you simply say, hey there, like I'm doing a market research project. Would you be interested in spending 15 to 30 minutes with me over Zoom and talking to me about your experiences in the nonprofit sector? Simple as that. And usually people will say yes. You could even offer things like the Starbucks gift card or whatever as an incentive to get people to join, but that you don't have to do that. That's just an idea. And when you set up these interviews, when you go into the Zoom, make sure to record the interviews. So we use a software called Fireflies. It's free and it records everything. It's a note taker, so you can focus completely on the meeting. You don't have to worry about writing stuff down. And at the end of the meeting, it will literally transcribe everything that was said, which is really nice. And you'll be surprised at what people tell you in these interviews. And it can also lead to how you find clients later down the line in your business. But really, what you want to find out, your mission in these interviews, is to figure out each nonprofit's hopes, dreams, and fears. I mean, you really want to drill down to their pain points and where they want to end up and figure out that gap in the middle. And that's kind of where you come in with your services, ideally. So yeah, and actually you can literally use verbatim what they tell you a lot of the time in these interviews as marketing language. I mean, we do that ourselves. You literally just use word for word what they tell you their pains are. And that's another great way to write marketing copy. Okay, step 4 in the framework is connect and network. So for this, we're going to make another list. You just want to think about literally everyone you know. I know it sounds overwhelming and excessive, but we did this when we first started consulting, and it's how we found our clients. So literally make a list of everyone you know, go through your LinkedIn profile, go through your Instagram followers, go through your texts, go through everything, and you'll come up with probably like, I don't know, 100 to 200 people probably. And then you're going to want to reach out to every person on the list individually and say to them, hey, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to let you know that I'm going to be starting consulting for nonprofits. These are my services. This is who I help. Do you know anyone interested? And some people won't respond, and that's fine. But you will be surprised at the number of responses you get. People that you don't even think about, like your dog walker's aunt or whatever it might be. I mean, there are different degrees of separation, but this is how you're going to connect with leads. And after you do that, think about your strategic partners that you can use in your business. So for us being the CRM people, we formed partnerships with a lot of the databases. So like here, Bloomerang, Keela, DonorDoc, we've got partnerships with, I don't know, maybe 10 CRMs at this point. And they're great because we get discount codes to share with our clients. We get to be featured on their podcasts, their webinars, blogs. And it's just a great strategic partnership for us. But think about your own business. I mean, if you want to niche down to like, I don't know, planned giving, maybe you could form partnerships with some of the bigger agencies like Stelter or Free Will. A lot of the times, those large firms, they need people to help with implementation support, and they'll refer you clients that way. So yeah, this is step 4. Just think about who you can connect and network with. And the last step of the framework is figure out your transition plan. So everything we've talked about so far sounds awesome, right? But we got to get realistic. You have to figure out how you are going to make this all come together, how to realize your vision. And it's really important to think about all different factors at play, right? I mean, this is a career change. It is a big deal. This is not something that should be taken lightly. So you got to be wise when planning it, especially when you have things to consider like family, finances, how much time you've got to devote to consulting, whatever it is. Please just think about it and map out a transition strategy so that you can actually make your dream a reality. So here I've put my transition strategy actually, and it was December 2021 when I realized finally after it was like 5 years that I was miserable, and I finally decided this was it. And that's when I was like, okay, I've got to make a change. And I texted Julia in December 2021, and I had heard from somebody else that she was looking at quitting her job. Julia and I, we knew each other. We've known each other like almost 10 years now. She was actually my intern at one point at a nonprofit in DC. And I texted her. I mean, it was like Christmas around there. She was shopping for a Christmas tree with her family. And I asked her, like, hey, I heard you're quitting your job. I hate my life too. Like, can we maybe start a business together? What do you think? And she said yes. So that was like the pivotal moment in my timeline where we decided to start consulting. And it was also that same month where we did the exercise, the list exercise, where we reached out to old colleagues, anyone that we knew in the nonprofit space that could use our services. A month later, I decided to take an easy job at another nonprofit. So I will note that I used to be primary breadwinner for my family. And I also had a baby at home. So it was not like, as much as I wanted to quit my job that I was miserable at, I couldn't do it because I had my family to think about. So I decided to take an easy job at another nonprofit, a remote nonprofit where I knew my boss at the time. He was an old colleague, a friend, and that easy job allowed me to work nights, weekends, whatever I had time to do. And that's when I focused on building the business with Julia. That was also the point where we, filed all our IRS paperwork. We got a website for the business. We started putting together our list of services, like flyers and stuff to hand out to people. So that's when we got everything into motion. And we also signed our first client that same month. Again, it was from that list that we made. It was an old colleague, and we actually still have the nonprofit as a client today. And what I promised myself and what I promised Julia was that I would take the full leap to just go consulting all in after a year of building the business. And so that's when January 23, I quit my day job, went all in on the business with Julia, and we built a business and we have no debt. I think when we started the business, we each invested like $1,500, I think is what it was. And that paid for like an attorney to help us with contract drafting. It paid for like our domain for our website, little things like that. And now we've made it into, I mean, almost a $500,000 a business over the years. So after a year, we were successful. And at that point in time, we had secured multiple clients. I was able to replace my salary income, so I felt comfortable leaving my full-time job. And that's really how I did it. That was my transition plan. And that's the end of that's the 5-step framework. And now we're going to get into our story a little bit. We're going to peek behind the curtains, show you exactly how much money we were making at different points in our business so you can get an idea of how you can do it too. So again, as I mentioned, we launched our business in January 22, officially, legally. And we offered fundraising, marketing, ops support, turned into mostly database support for nonprofits. Here is a chart showing the numbers of our business. So again, it was January 22 where we filed the paperwork. A month in, we had secured our first client. We made $5,000 that month, and we worked our way up. This was our first 20K month. This was a year in, December 22. And again, we were not working full. I mean, it was really a side gig at the time, more than anything, because Julia was focused on taking care of her grandparents. I had my full-time job. So it was a side gig, and we were able to make all this money at that point. And then you can see here, 23, that's when I decided to go all in. And we probably started working, I don't know, 20, 30-hour weeks from that point on. And this is our highest earning month here, 23K. Julia was actually in Italy at this point in time. Like, she remembers sending out the invoices to our clients that month from like a balcony in Rome, literally. So yeah, that was our highest earning month, and goes on from there. And here, some more numbers. So we work on average 25 hours a week. We charge, I mean, it's definitely higher now. When we first started, we had to figure out the pricing structure, but we make about $150 an hour on our clients. We're averaging 16K every month in revenue, and we've been in business for a little over 2 years. Okay, so why it works, these are our values, why we feel like our business has been successful. We are constantly committed to learning. I think we've really, I mean, upped our game. We decided to hire a business coach. When was that? Like January of this year, we hired our coach and really leveled up. He has taken our business to the next level. And, we're always reading, also always going to webinars to learn new things. And we're just obsessed with learning and adapting, really, when you make a mistake. So commitment to learning is one of our core values. We also believe that your dreams can become reality when you combine them with follow through. So it's great. Everybody can have a vision, but what matters is execution, right? Follow through. You can have the biggest vision, dream in the world, but if you don't follow through, doesn't matter. So we really believe in that. And lastly, we prioritize our health and our family. That always comes first for our business, especially because Julia and we both experienced burnout during our nonprofit employee gigs, or whatever you want to call it, that part of our career. And we've really realized, especially as entrepreneurs too, because work is really never off when you're an entrepreneur, it's always constantly there, but we've been able to establish boundaries and other things to prioritize our health and families. So if you like what you've heard today, if any of this has resonated with you, if you can relate to any of this, we have just launched, I guess we've been doing it for about 8 weeks now. We have a mentorship program where we do everything, the 5-step framework with you. So this is the program that we created because we wish we had something like this when we started consulting. We made lots of mistakes in the early days of our business and we learned, of course, but we wish that there would have been something like this out there to really accelerate our growth. So that's why we made this program. It's a 12-month program where we work with you on the 5-step framework to build a successful consulting business. And what we do is we have live weekly trainings. Julia runs those where she does, it's usually like 30 minutes of a live presentation on a variety of topics. I mean, we're talking like sales stuff, marketing stuff, the nitty-gritty business building stuff. She does those live sessions and then opens it up for Q&A. So those are every week. And we also have live calls every month. We have accountability sessions for people that want to talk through where they're struggling, what their goals are. We have those. We do welcome sessions and happy hours to help you build your network within the group, because we've seen a lot of our students start mingling together, meeting outside of the mentorship to refer clients to one another and work together in different projects. So you definitely have a network community within this program. And we do have a 24/7 channel. It's through it's called Kajabi, through our platform, where it's like a giant message board, almost like a Facebook group, but it's private. And our students share all of their work in there. So we do have exercises with accompanying worksheets. We have all kinds of stuff where people post in the community and we give feedback there. So that's, again, a 24/7 thing that's open. And here are the learning outcomes. We cycle through different topics every week. So it's not like a step-by-step, like it's just a rolling program. And we talk about the business building fundamentals. We talk about finding the right client, project management and time skills, and then lastly, mindset and growth. And here are the investment options. So we raise these prices quarterly. Actually, we started at $250 a month and now it's at $275. Or you can save $300 by doing a one-time payment. And I will mention we do have a guarantee. So if you are not happy with the program after 30 days, you can cancel your membership. And yeah. Are there any, let's see what questions.
Yeah, I've been answering a few questions
Oh, good.
in the Q&A here. I have PETA asking, how do we translate to Canada? I was just answering that most of what we're teaching in the program is business strategy and fundamentals. So it will translate and there will be some minor differences. I know there's different laws around different things in Canada, which we can get into, but our own business coach is from Canada and there's plenty of Americans in that program and vice versa. So that's not a problem. Okay. And we did have, let's see, we had a few questions here. I'll just share. People were asking about how to charge. That's a big struggle that some people are having, which we did have as well. I think Catalina mentioned earlier that one of our first clients, we were just so excited to get a second client. We felt like we needed to undervalue ourselves just to get that second client. And it ended up being probably one of the bigger mistakes that we made in the early year or months of our business, because that client ended up being the neediest and being someone that really didn't, their expectations were not aligned with ours, because we felt like we were giving them a deal and they felt like they were paying us so much money, but it was $85 an hour. And that was just way, way, way below what we should have been charging. So pricing is something that does come up very often in the program. And we actually just helped a client in the mentorship who had started to work on a proposal for one of her clients, her very first client as a consultant. And we reviewed the proposal with her. We went through what the rate would look like, how to implement value-based pricing, and she was successful in getting that contract signed. And she was very happy with the rate she was able to get. So that is something that we kind of coach you guys through. Um, Other questions that I saw here. Let's see, we have one new one. Um, is doing a business plan for your nonprofit the same as nonprofit consulting? Is it a part of nonprofit consulting? Yeah, so you're figuring out how to consult, but you're also figuring out how to run a business. So there's sort of two pieces here. There's the actual product delivery of what you're doing. Once you get a client and you're putting together a proposal for them, you might be working on a project or a retainer, or a couple of different options for how you might structure a proposal. But you also need to understand how to run a business. You're not there, you could just be a freelancer, freelance grant writer who occasionally takes on a project here or there. What we're talking about is actually starting a business, where you're invoicing every month, you are doing projections for what you're expecting to make so that you actually can manage your money and have consistent income in a business bank account, we have our own accountant for the business, where you're actually replacing your salary and paying yourself out of your business. So this is a little bit different from just doing a side hustle. Although, as Catalina explained, if it needs to be a side hustle in the beginning while you're working through transitioning out of full-time work, then that's perfectly acceptable as well. But what we teach in the business is, yes, how to consult, but even more importantly, how to actually build a business that's sustainable long term.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other new questions? Anthony asked about what kind of software we use. We use QuickBooks Online for our financials, for business planning, and for projects for clients. We do use Asana right now. And Catalina mentioned that for hosting our group coaching program, we use Kajabi. Let's see what else. Pricing. And then, and Arnold was asking about competitor analysis. So this is just really important. And like Catalina said, you don't want to get too caught up in your competitors, but the main thing is to understand who else is operating in your space. So if you want to align yourself as a Blackbaud consultant, for instance, or a Salesforce consultant, you definitely want to understand who else is offering similar services to what you're offering, to try to understand how are they marketing their services, how are they making their services unique compared to someone else in the industry, and ideally figuring out what they're charging. And there are ways to do this. A lot of times they will have their pricing featured on their website. So then you can start to understand when you're going in to speak to clients, are you undercharging, overcharging? Are you offering a unique value in your services? And the idea is to develop a unique value proposition that sets you apart from the others who are a little bit more middle of the road. So it's not to compare to make you crazy, because you definitely don't want to spend too much time on your competitors, but just to understand who else is operating in the space.
And just, I wanted to circle back on Christina's question about the skills list. That was just an example that we had used for our own skills. But like for you, I mean, let's say you are a development director. What skills would you have? I mean, maybe you know about grant writing, maybe you know about running your database, maybe you know about major gifts and moves management.
You
What
might
else?
also know about board management. You might have these soft skills. Someone did ask that as well. Um, is it only the nuts and bolts? Is it only CRM setup or fundraising? And no, it's definitely not. We've seen some really impressive program work being done as well. If you're an expert on specific policies and if you're an expert in certain environmental policy and you want to consult with organizations that want to work on those issues, you can get into the policy and the program work that way. You can also help with things like board management. That's huge. The nonprofits are always desperate for that. I would say that what you want to do is you want to look around the nonprofit that you work in right now and look at your colleagues, your coworkers, and look for the gaps there. And that's why we got into CRMs, because we saw initially that was a very, very big problem for Catalina working at a foundation where they were still managing all of their grantees on pen and paper with manila envelopes and filing cabinets. which she couldn't believe that they didn't have any kind of online, there was no kind of database to manage their grantees. And on my side, as a development director, we had a list of 40,000 donors in a database that looked like it was made in 1985. And that wasn't going to cut it. It wasn't going to work to do the kind of advanced fundraising that we needed to do. So we started to realize that this was a common thread in nonprofits. See, Arnold is asking about project management. We get into that in the program. I mean, there's different philosophies. I have a master's certificate in project management. So we do take you guys through a couple different strategies for managing projects based on the kind of work you're doing, but obviously managing the client and making sure that you're setting expectations up front, setting deadlines, and making sure the deliverables are clear is baseline. And how do we charge for consulting? Fee and percentage. Yeah, so we'll talk about that. We do talk about that. We just did a great workshop last week on pricing structures. And if possible, we do recommend going with value-based pricing, although different pricing is going to be more relevant depending on the work you're doing. So for instance, we do have a client that prefers for us to charge hourly. We have a very good relationship with them. We charge a rate that we like, and we're very happy to continue doing that with them because that relationship works. We've had clients where we absolutely would not give them an hourly rate because we know that that would not work for them because they don't have the ability to manage themselves and they would always want to go over those hours. So for them, we give them very specific deliverables with a specific timeline, and there's a set price tag for that deliverable based on the value that we believe it provides to the organization. And if you get good enough at selling it, that price can go up and up based on the demand. So pricing is tricky. Pricing is definitely something you have to learn. But the main thing is that you are charging what you're worth, and understanding what that is does come from some of that market research that you're doing. All right, any other questions? I think that's all the ones that I see open. And do we have a link, Catalina, that we can provide to the program? You'll all be getting emails after this, but if you want right now, you can go to relatablononprofit.com, and that's where you'll find more information about the mentorship if you're interested in joining.
Yeah, let me
Christina, thank you so much. Great, Christina, we can chat offline, but thank you so much for joining. We appreciate it. We're so happy to have you here. All right, great. And Catalina has shared the link in the chat if anyone is interested in checking out the program, and we'll send you some more emails about it after this training.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.